He whispered, "I love you," while framing my father for crimes he didn't commit. 12 years, one plan, total destruction. I thought revenge would set me free. I was wrong. Because the man I came to destroy just asked for forgiveness. Revenge with Mireya, where justice meets heartbreak. Selene Vratos stared at the cream envelope on her desk, her hands trembling. 12 years. 12 years since she'd left Thornwick Valley with nothing but a second-hand suitcase and shattered dreams. The invitation's gold lettering mocked her. "You're cordially invited to the Ashmont Foundation Gala." His foundation, his empire, built on her ruins. She traced the embossed letters with one finger, her jaw tightening. The city had forgotten her, erased her like chalk in rain. But she remembered everything. Every promise broken, every lie whispered, every dollar stolen. The girl who'd fled in shame was gone. In her place stood something sharper, colder, dangerous. "Are you actually considering this?" Her assistant, Mari, leaned against the doorframe of the penthouse office, concern etching lines around her eyes. Selene looked up and Mari actually stepped back. Whatever she saw in those dark eyes made her breath catch. "Book my flight," Selene said softly. "I'm going home." Thornwick Valley hadn't changed. The same mountains crowned the horizon, the same old money stench permeated everything. Selene's heels clicked against marble as she entered the Regency Hotel, her burgundy coat drawing stares. She looked nothing like the scared 20-year-old who'd left. Money and rage had refined her into something else entirely. At the concierge desk she paused. Across the lobby, a silver-haired man stood frozen, champagne glass halfway to his lips. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something that might have been fear. "Good. Ms. Vratos, your penthouse suite is ready." The concierge's voice pulled her attention back. She smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. Perfect timing. In her suite, she laid out 12 folders across the dining table. 12 years of investigation. 12 years of building power, connections, and evidence. Each folder represented someone who'd destroyed her, and at the center of it all, one name burned brightest: Castor Ashmont. The boy she'd loved, the man who'd betrayed her. The gala glittered with Thornwick's elite. Selene descended the grand staircase deliberately, timing her entrance for maximum impact. Conversations stuttered and died as heads turned. She'd chosen her dress carefully, black as midnight, cut like a weapon. "My God," someone whispered, "is that Selene Vratos?" She let the murmurs build, feeding on their shock. Then she saw him. Castor Ashmont stood by the bar, devastating in his tailored tuxedo, his dark hair threaded with premature silver. At 32 he'd grown into the power she'd always known he'd claim. But when their eyes met across the room, she watched his composure crack. He set down his drink and started toward her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she'd stopped running years ago. "Selene," his voice was deeper than she remembered, rougher. "You came. You invited me." She accepted champagne from a passing waiter, her hand steady. "Though I wonder why, nostalgia, guilt." His grey eyes searched her face. "I needed to see you to explain." "There's nothing to explain, Castor. You made your choices, I've made mine." She smiled and he actually flinched. "Let's just say I'm here to settle old accounts." She walked away, leaving him standing alone in the crowd. Round 1, hers. "You're playing with fire." Selene turned from her hotel window to find Lyric Thorne in her suite's doorway. Lyric, Castor's half-brother, the family's black sheep, the one person who tried to warn her 12 years ago. "How did you get in here?" "Same way I get everywhere, money and charm." He moved into the room, all lean grace and dangerous edges. "I heard you were back, heard what you're planning." "You don't know anything about my plans." "Don't I?" He pulled out a chair, settling into it like he owned the place. "You're going after Castor, after all of them, and you're going to need help." Selene studied him carefully. Lyric had always been the wild card, brilliant and unpredictable. "Why would you help me?" "Because they destroyed you, and in doing so they proved what I'd always known. My family is poison." His amber eyes glinted. "Besides, my dear brother stole something from me too. Maybe we can help each other get even." She considered this. An alliance with Lyric was risky, but useful. "Tell me what you know about Castor's new development project." Lyric smiled. "Now we're talking." The file Lyric provided was explosive. Castor's foundation, the empire he'd built on ethical business practices, was funded through offshore accounts tied to her father's company, the company that had collapsed 12 years ago, taking her family's reputation and fortune with it. But that wasn't what made Selini's blood run cold. There, buried in financial documents, was proof. Castor had orchestrated her father's downfall, not just witnessed it, not just benefited from it, orchestrated it. The boy who'd sworn he loved her had systematically destroyed her family to eliminate competition for Ashmont Industries. He used you, Lyric said quietly, watching her process the information. Got close to you to spy on your father's business strategies. When your family became a threat, he eliminated them. Selini's hands clenched on the desk. And the embezzlement charges against my father. Fabricated. Castor planted evidence, bought witnesses. Your father was innocent, they all were. The room tilted. Her father had died believing himself a criminal, believing he'd failed his family. Her mother had worked herself into an early grave trying to pay debts that weren't theirs, and Selini had spent 12 years rebuilding from ashes that shouldn't exist. I'm going to destroy him, she whispered. I know, Lyric said, that's why I'm here. Castor showed up at her suite at midnight. Selini had been expecting him. We need to talk, he pushed past her, agitated. This game you're playing. Game, she closed the door carefully. You think this is a game? I know you're digging into my business, I know you've been meeting with Lyric. He turned to face her and she saw fear there. Good, Selini, whatever you think you know. I know everything, Castor, the offshore accounts, the fabricated evidence, how you used me to destroy my family. She moved closer, watching him pale. Did you laugh? When you held me and I cried about my father's disgrace, did you laugh inside knowing you'd orchestrated it all? It wasn't like that. Then how was it? Her voice cracked like a whip. Explain to me how framing an innocent man for embezzlement, how driving him to suicide, how leaving his family destitute was some noble act. Castor's face had gone white. Your father, he killed himself. 3 years after we left Thornwick, couldn't live with the shame of crimes he didn't commit. She laughed bitterly. But you knew that, you must have known. I didn't, he reached for her but she stepped back. Selini, I swear I didn't know, I never meant. You meant every bit of it, you just didn't expect to face consequences. She pulled out her phone, showing him photographs of documents. Tomorrow morning these go to the SEC, the FBI and every major news outlet. Your empire ends, just like you ended mine. Wait, Castor's voice was desperate. Please just wait. Selini paused at her laptop, finger hovering over the send button. Give me one reason. Because there's more to this story, things you don't know. He ran his hands through his hair, disheveling the perfect silver-threaded strands. My father, he's the one who planned everything. I was 20, stupid, trying to prove myself worthy of the family name. He convinced me your father was planning a hostile takeover, that we'd lose everything. So you acted on his orders. I fell in love with you on his orders, Castor said quietly. That part wasn't supposed to happen, you weren't supposed to be. You. Selini's laugh was hollow. Am I supposed to be moved by this? You loved me but destroyed my family anyway. I tried to stop it. Once I realized what I felt for you was real, I tried to call it off. But my father had already set everything in motion. His grey eyes pleaded with her. He threatened to frame not just your father but you too. Said he'd plant evidence that you were complicit in the embezzlement. You'd have gone to prison, Selini, for 20 years. Her finger trembled on the keyboard. You expect me to believe that? I have proof, recordings of my father's threats, evidence that I tried to protect you the only way I could, by letting you hate me and leave. He pulled out a flash drive. It's all here, everything, including evidence of crimes my father committed that are still actionable. Help me take him down instead. He's the real monster. Selini stared at the flash drive. This changed nothing, changed everything. The recordings were damning. Reginald Ashmont's voice, cold and calculating, explaining how he'd use his son's infatuation with Selini to destroy the Vratos family. How he'd threatened Selini with prison if Castor didn't comply. How he viewed people as chess pieces, expendable and replaceable. You still should have told me, Selini said finally, after listening to hours of recordings. He would have destroyed you. Castor sat across from her, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. I was young enough to think I could protect you by pushing you away. I didn't know he'd actually frame your father. I thought he broke off. I was an idiot. Yes, she agreed, you were. I've spent 12 years trying to build something clean, something good. The foundation, the ethical business practices, it was all meant to be different from him, but he still controls the family money, still pulls strings. Caster looked at her directly. Help me expose him. We take him down together, clear your father's name, and I'll give you half of everything I own. It's not enough, it'll never be enough, but it's something. Selene stood, walking to the window. The city glittered below, full of people who'd turned their backs on her family, who'd believed the lies. I want 70%, she said, and I want his public confession. I want the world to know my father was innocent. Done. She turned, and one more thing. When this is over, I never want to see you again. Something like pain flashed across his face. Deal. Lyric wasn't pleased. You're trusting him after everything. I'm not trusting anyone. Selene spread documents across the conference table in her suite. I'm using him just like he used me. He says his father forced his hand. And maybe that's even true. Doesn't change what happened, doesn't bring my father back. She circled Reginald Ashmont's name on the whiteboard, but it does give us a way to destroy the real architect of everything. Mari entered with coffee, her ever-present practicality grounding the room. The legal team reviewed the recordings. They're authentic, admissible in court. Court's not enough, Selene said. Reginald has judges in his pocket. We need to destroy him completely, legally, financially, socially. The Thornwick charity ball is next week, Lyric offered. Everyone who matters will be there, including Reginald. Caster arrived then, looking uncomfortable in a room full of people who hated him. I've arranged for a presentation at the ball, supposedly about the Foundation's new initiatives, but we can change the content at the last minute. A public reveal, Mari said slowly. Risky. Effective, Selene corrected. He can't run from 1,000 witnesses, can't buy everyone's silence. Caster met her eyes. He'll know I betrayed him, he'll come after me with everything. That's your problem, Selene said coldly. You should have thought about that 12 years ago. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Selene barely slept, running on adrenaline and coffee, cross-referencing documents and building an airtight case. But late at night, doubt crept in. Are you okay? Mari asked one evening, finding her staring at an old photograph. It showed Selene at 18 laughing with Caster at some forgotten party. They looked so young, so happy, so naive. I loved him, Selene whispered. God help me, I really did. I know. And part of me still. She cut herself off, angry at the admission. He ruined everything. Even if his father forced him, even if he was trying to protect me, he still ruined everything. Mari sat beside her. You don't have to forgive him, but maybe you need to forgive yourself for loving him, for not seeing it coming, for being human. Selene closed her eyes. After this is done, after I've cleared my father's name and destroyed the people who destroyed us, maybe then. But she wasn't sure she believed it. The Thornwick charity ball exceeded even Thornwick's usual opulence. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, the city's elite in their finest. Selene entered on Lyric's arm, her crimson dress a declaration of war. Reginald Ashmont held court near the stage, silver-haired and distinguished, every inch the philanthropic billionaire. When he saw Selene, his eyes narrowed, but his smile never wavered. Ms. Vratos, what a surprise to see you've returned to Thornwick. Is it? She accepted champagne, matching his pleasant tone. Your son invited me, surely he mentioned it. My son makes many decisions without consulting me. Reginald glanced at Caster, who stood near the stage, visibly tense. Though I understand you two have been reacquainting yourselves. You could say that. I wonder what you hope to accomplish here. Reginald's voice dropped, losing its pleasantness. Some misguided attempt at revenge. My dear, you're playing in leagues beyond your understanding. Am I? Selene smiled. I suppose we'll see. The lights dimmed, Caster took the stage, and Selene's heart began to pound. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. Caster's voice rang through the ballroom. The Ashmont Foundation has always been committed to ethical business practices, transparency and justice. Behind him the screen lit up, not with the expected presentation about charity initiatives. Instead, financial documents appeared, offshore accounts, shell corporations, money trails. Which is why, Caster continued, his voice harder now, I must reveal a truth that's been hidden for 12 years. Reginald started toward the stage, but security, Seleni's security, blocked his path. 12 years ago, my father orchestrated the destruction of the Vratos family. He fabricated evidence of embezzlement, bribed witnesses, and used his power to frame an innocent man. Castor's eyes found Selene in the crowd. That man, Marcus Vratos, took his own life believing he'd failed his family. He deserved better. They all did. The screen showed documents, recordings, timestamps, irrefutable proof. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. No, Reginald's shout cut through the noise. He's lying, that girl has poisoned my son's mind. These are your voice recordings, father. Castor played a clip. Reginald's voice, cold and calculating, discussing exactly how to frame Marcus Vratos. The colour drained from Reginald's face. He looked around wildly, seeing his empire crumbling in real time, broadcast to everyone who mattered. I've submitted all evidence to federal authorities, Castor finished. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward, and Selene watched Reginald Ashmont's world end. The fallout was spectacular. Federal agents arrested Reginald at the ball. Morning news led with the scandal. The Ashmont name, once synonymous with prestige, became toxic overnight. Selene stood in her hotel suite, watching it all unfold on television, feeling nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just emptiness where rage had lived for so long. You did it, Mari said softly. Your father's name is cleared, everyone knows the truth. Yes. So why don't you look happy? Selene turned from the window. Because he's still dead. Because my mother worked herself to death for nothing, because 12 years are gone and I can't get them back. A knock interrupted them. Castor stood in the hallway looking haggard. Can we talk? I don't think, Mari began, but Selene waved her off. It's fine, give us a moment. When they were alone, Castor said, I'm leaving Thornwick, probably the country. The company's board has voted me out and the foundation is under investigation. Good. I kept my promise. 70% of my personal assets have been transferred to you. It's clean money, everything I earned outside my father's influence. It's not enough, I know that, but... Stop, Selene held up a hand. I don't want your apologies or your justifications. You did what needed to be done, that's all. Is it? Castor moved closer. Because we both know there's more between us than revenge and restitution. Her heart stuttered. Don't. I never stopped loving you, Selene. Even when I pushed you away, even when you hated me, especially then. Castor froze in the doorway. Selene struggled with words, with feelings she'd buried for over a decade. I loved you too, so much it hurt. When I left, I thought I'd die from it. Selene. But I didn't die, I survived. I built myself into someone stronger, colder, someone who couldn't be hurt like that again. She met his eyes. And I'm not sure I can go back to being the girl who trusted you. I don't know if she even exists anymore. Castor nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? She moved toward him. Because part of me wants to hate you forever, wants to watch you suffer like I suffered, and part of me... She stopped, the admission too dangerous. Part of you what? Part of me remembers what it felt like to be loved by you, to love you back. She touched his face, feeling him tremble. And I hate that I remember, hate that it still matters. Tell me what you want, Castor whispered. Anything, I'll disappear if that's what you need, or I'll stay and spend the rest of my life trying to make this right. Just tell me. Selene looked at him, really looked, saw the man he'd become, shaped by guilt and regret, saw the boy she'd loved, still there in his eyes, and saw the possibility of something she'd thought impossible. I want, she closed her eyes. I want to not feel this way, I want to be done with you, but I'm not sure I can be. Then don't be. He pulled her close and she let him. Let me prove I'm different. Let me prove we can be different. I can't promise anything. I'm not asking for promises, just a chance. Selene pulled away, reality crashing back. This is insane. You destroyed my family. My father destroyed your family. I was complicit, but nothing. You were there. You participated. You let it happen. She wrapped her arms around herself. How do we move past that? I don't know, but I want to try. Castor's voice was raw with emotion. These 12 years without you have been hell. I built an empire trying to make up for what I did, trying to become someone worthy of your forgiveness, but none of it meant anything because you weren't there to see it. That's not my problem. No, it's mine, all mine. He sat on the edge of her couch looking defeated. I'm not asking you to forget, I'm not asking you to forgive, I'm just asking for time. Let me prove that I'm not the coward I was at 20, let me show you who I've become. Selene wanted to say no, wanted to send him away and be done with this chapter of her life, but she'd spent 12 years living for revenge, and now that she had it, the emptiness was overwhelming. 1 month, she heard herself say. You have 1 month to convince me you're worth the risk, and if at any point I decide you're not, you leave, no arguments, no second chances. Hope flickered in his grey eyes. 1 month, I'll take it. But Thornwick wasn't done with them yet. The morning after the charity ball, Lyric burst into Selene's suite with news. Reginald's lawyers are claiming Castor fabricated everything. They're saying he doctored the recordings, forged the documents, all to deflect from his own crimes. That's insane, Mari protested. We have originals, time-stamps, verification from multiple sources. Doesn't matter, they're rich, connected and desperate, Lyric paced. They're also claiming Selene orchestrated the whole thing as a revenge plot, that she seduced Castor to gain access to Ashmont files. Selene felt cold. They're going to flip this, make me the villain. They're certainly trying. Lyric threw down a newspaper. The headline screamed, Vengeful Socialite FIMES Philanthropist, ASHMONT Family FIGHTS back. Castor arrived minutes later, fury radiating from him. My father's lawyers just filed a defamation suit against both of us, and they've gotten a judge to freeze my assets pending investigation. Your assets, Selene's stomach dropped, but those were supposed to transfer to me. Frozen, all of it. They're claiming I fraudulently transferred wealth to avoid criminal liability. He slammed his fist against the wall. I'm so sorry, I didn't think he could move this fast. Your father has unlimited resources and no conscience, Lyric said darkly. Of course he moved fast. Selene felt the trap closing around them. They'd won the battle but not the war, and Reginald Ashmont wasn't going down without taking them all with him. We need more evidence, Selene said, her strategic mind kicking into gear. The recordings aren't enough. We need physical proof of the money trails, the bribed officials, everything. That information would be in my father's private files, Castor said slowly, in his study at the estate. Which is now under guard after his arrest, Mari added. We can't just walk in. Lyric smiled dangerously. Who said anything about walking? 3 nights later, Selene found herself approaching Ashmont Estate through the back gardens, dressed in black, her heart pounding. Beside her, Lyric moved like a shadow. Castor led the way, using his intimate knowledge of the property to avoid security. This is insane, she whispered. We could go to prison for this. We're going to prison anyway if we don't find proof, Lyric countered. Might as well earn it. They slipped through a service entrance past sleeping guards. Mari had mixed sedatives into the night shift's coffee, and up the back stairs. Reginald's study loomed ahead, dark and imposing. Castor produced keys with shaking hands. If my father finds out I helped with this. He already wants to destroy you, Selene reminded him. This changes nothing. Inside, they worked quickly. Lyric hacked Reginald's computer while Selene photographed documents. Castor searched filing cabinets. The evidence was overwhelming, payoffs, bribes, lists of officials in Reginald's pocket, proof of a dozen illegal schemes. Got it, Lyric breathed, pulling files onto a drive. Everything, enough to bury him 10 times over. Then let's go, Selene urged. But footsteps echoed in the hallway. Someone was coming,